Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. France is pulling about 500 of its troops out of Beirut. They are being redeployed more to the south. Thus, the French join the Italians in reducing their numbers in and immediately around the Lebanese capital, further reducing support for U.S. Marines. In Syria, the Reverend Jesse Jackson met with President Assad, then was asked to stay longer, as the Syrians considered further whether to set free captured U.S. Navy Airman Robert Goodman, Jr. We have reports from Bob Faw in Damascus and Bill Plant at the White House.
Jackson's mission hasn't succeeded yet, but there are signs that it might. And tonight, when the Syrian government said it couldn't finish discussing Jackson's appeal and asked Jackson to delay his departure and stay a little longer, a spokesman said Jackson readily agreed.
President Assad has currently convened the appropriate leadership, and our appeal is being deliberated upon. These deliberations are signs of hope.
Still, what Jackson learned today is that it's easier to bargain with Syria's merchants than with the country's president, Hafiz Assad. In a private session which the Syrian strongman rarely grants and which lasted almost 90 minutes, Jackson argued for Goodman's release on humanitarian grounds. He also told Assad that he thinks there's a growing consensus in the U.S. to pull American Marines out of Lebanon and that he thinks President Reagan will lose the election. Afterwards, the normally outspoken candidate said the situation now is so delicate, even he is refraining from discussing it or the Assad meeting.
We are at a very sensitive stage in this appeal. Because of that, I will not entertain any questions and answers after this, because we do not want anything to be said out of context that would have some bearing upon a final decision.
When Jackson returned from the meeting, his Secret Service bodyguards were relieved to see him because for nearly 2 hours they had had no idea where Jackson had been taken. Assad's bodyguards had ordered the American agents to stay behind. Despite their angry objections, Jackson concurred. It's possible, of course, that Assad is just stringing Jackson along, but he did tell Jackson that appropriate government officials here would consider changing Syrian policy, which is that before Goodman leaves, U.S. reconnaissance flights over Lebanon must cease. So he's staying, and yes, he really does believe he can pull it off. And if all that seems outlandish, 1 week ago, just getting here, much less seeing both Assad and Goodman, seemed pretty outlandish too. Bob Faw, CBS News, with the Jackson campaign in Damascus.
As President Reagan returned from a week-long vacation in California, White House sources were publicly cautious about the Jackson mission, saying only that they would welcome Lieutenant Goodman's release. Privately, administration officials are concerned that the high level of attention could wind up keeping Goodman in Syria even longer. President Reagan's first order of business tomorrow, a meeting with Special Mideast Envoy Donald Rumsfeld and his national security advisors for an intensive review of U.S. policy in the region. Mr. Reagan will look at the situation in Lebanon, the peace process in the wake of 2 Rumsfeld missions, and the key question, what to do about the U.S. Marines. A Pentagon report now at the White House lists all the options for the Marines in Lebanon, from total withdrawal to keeping them right where they are at the airport. An administration official cautioned, don't get too carried away. I wouldn't expect anything dramatic, adding that he believed the eventual decision would be somewhere in between. That means that the Marines will probably move to another location where they are less exposed, but with no change in their commitment to the peacekeeping force. The French government redeployed 482 of its soldiers in the multinational force, moving them from peacekeeping duty in Beirut back to the UN force in southern Lebanon. As congressional pressure for withdrawal of the Marines builds, the House Democratic leadership meets tomorrow to reconsider their support. By all accounts, the president remains insistent that the Marines must stay, but many of his aides privately believe that he will have to find some way to get them out in the next few months. Bill Plant, CBS News, the White House.
Rebels in El Salvador are euphoric over 2 new major successes in their war against the U.S.-backed government. The rebels saw out the old year by storming an important army base north of the capital, then marked the new year by destroying a key bridge east of the capital. Mike O'Connor reports on both government setbacks.
It used to be the most important and the most heavily defended bridge in the country, until yesterday, when rebels forced government troops away and then used mortars to send the span to where it rests now. Without the bridge, it will be even more difficult for the Army to defend the eastern third of the country, and that is where the rebels are the strongest. This is the second important defeat for the government of El Salvador. Here, in the northern province of Chalatenango, the Army's newest fort was sacked by rebels on Friday. Most of what rebels left behind was destroyed by the Army in retaking the fort. The day before that attack, the Army was boasting to reporters that 80% of its troops were in the field searching for guerrillas. But after rebels hit the garrison, the Army set up roadblocks to try to keep reporters away from the area. These government soldiers, taken prisoner by the rebels, say they were caught completely by surprise. This man said he was asleep when the first thing he knew, there were mortars and grenades coming over the walls. Others said they didn't know a large rebel force was even close to the barracks. 2 colonels were among the government troops killed, and rebels claimed to have taken at least 100 prisoners. Aside from the psychological defeat both attacks represent, the raid on the barracks brought rebels a substantial increase in supplies. After the raid, they tried out their new weapons, distributed the fresh ammunition, monitored government communications on Army radios, and put on their brand new uniforms. Mike O'Connor, CBS News, Chalatenango Province, El Salvador.
Fidel Castro continues to insist that he is not the direct moving force behind rebel efforts to seize power in El Salvador. It was 25 years ago this week when Castro first clawed his way to power in Havana. Ed Rabel is in the Cuban capital for the anniversary celebrations.
Look at him. The world over, he is unmistakable. The beard, the olive green uniform, the animated speeches. Here he is, a quarter of a century after taking power, still proclaiming the virtues of his revolution, still denouncing the United States government.
The United States will have to resign itself to coexisting in this hemisphere with different social and economic systems and independent countries.
For years, Fidel Castro has been a thorn in America's pride. It was not always so. When he rode into Havana triumphantly after Cuba's dictator Fulgencio Batista fled the country, Americans called Castro the Robin Hood of the Caribbean.
Good evening, Fidel Castro.
Maybe you remember. A month after taking over, he appeared on American TV from his Havana hotel suite dressed in pajamas and tried to put Americans at ease.
Tell me, Fidel Castro, are you concerned at all about the communist influence in Cuba?
Oh, I am not worried because really there is not threat about communism here in Cuba.
Now, 25 years later, Castro is an avowed communist, a major ally of the Soviet Union, deeply dependent on billions in Soviet aid. But this also must be said. For 25 years, Fidel Castro and his revolution have survived the implacable hostility of the most powerful nation on earth. Survived the United States-sponsored Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961. Survived the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. Survived the American trade embargo, which began in 1962. And survived repeated assassination attempts by the CIA. How is it possible that he survived all this?
He has extraordinarily good intuition in crisis situations, trying to size up his enemy and trying to take at the same time bold actions. He has projected the power of a tiny country on the world stage.
Of Castro's personal hold on millions of Cubans, there can be no doubt. But the Fidel Castro today is not quite the same man who came down from the mountains 25 years ago.
He is more of a team player, a bit of an elder statesman, less likely to rush forward into something without having thought it through.
It might be said that Fidel Castro, the dictator, has grown in office, and for better or worse, there is no longer much doubt that the system he created will itself survive long after this extraordinary man passes into history. Ed Rabel, CBS News, Santiago, Cuba.
Hey, huh? Send your entry back in the new Reader's Digest Cold Hard Cash Sweepstakes? Nah. Too bad. Huh? Your neighbor did. Looks like she just won the $250,000 grand prize. She even won bonus cash for mailing her entry back early. With 40,000 other cash prizes, you could have been a winner, too.
Winner?
Well, even if you didn't enter, at least your neighbor won. Watch your mail this week for the new Reader's Digest Sweepstakes and send your entry back fast.
Now from Warner Lambert,
Could your denture cleanser clean a triple stain of cherry, tea, and tobacco?
I don't think it would.
Extra Strength Efferdent removes the triple stain.
It cleaned beautifully. I'm going to switch to Efferdent.
Efferdent removes even stubborn stains between teeth.
Also from Warner Lambert.
Fran, I'll be with Dr. Sims.
Wait a minute.
What's wrong?
You need the breath deodorant.
Only Clorets has Actisol with chlorophyll and helps your mouth's own freshening power eliminate bad breath.
Thanks. Anytime.
For fresh breath fast Clorets.
After almost 3 weeks of bone-chilling cold, much of the nation today got a heartwarming break as temperatures climbed above normal for the day. Sunshine predominated over Southern California, but high winds troubled San Diego County. A 16-year-old boy escaped injury when a eucalyptus tree toppled on a house in Poway, north of San Diego. Winds gusted up to 50 miles an hour as a light plane struggled to a safe landing. But the plane fared better than area seagulls, who made little headway against strong headwinds. This is day 2 of the big breakup of the Bell system. But calling information won't answer 2 key questions. How do I make head or tail out of my new phone bill? And how much more is all this going to cost me? Ray Brady looks tonight at how fear and loathing of 1984 may have more to do with the end of Ma Bell than the start of Big Brother, and how understandable and legal moves made by big business to save money on their phone service may end up costing you more for yours.
Miss Williams, may I have your please?
As most Americans were ringing in the new year, the phone company was ringing in a new phone system.
Thank you for calling AT&T.
After 107 years, AT&T, the Bell system, broke itself up under government order. AT&T keeps long-distance calls, competing with companies like Sprint and MCI. Its former branches, newly independent companies, keep the monopoly on local phone service in their areas. Already, these new companies have won approval for $1.5 billion in rate increases, and they want $6.7 billion more. In California, the phone company has requested increases that could raise local rates 103%. In Missouri, 115%, and in Texas, 200%. In Philadelphia, the newly divested phone company has been sending out trial bills to show its customers the new order of things.
It's to ease customers into the divested environment.
They had a simple IBM card before with a simple bill explaining their charges. Now it's a different story. There's 7 pages to the bill. And in the 7 pages, people can't understand whose company handles what and what company is responsible for what.
If consumers here in Philadelphia and other cities are having troubles with telephone bills, there is one group that's found a way out. American businesses are using private telephone systems to bypass the phone company. Bankers Trust spent $400,000 for this microwave antenna system 4 years ago. And with lots more of its own equipment downstairs, what would be a giant telephone bill has been cut down sharply.
The systems we have installed here at Bankers Trust are yielding an annual savings of $9 million.
But what saves Bankers Trust money may cost consumers more. For New York Telephone, less than 1% of its customers, big businesses, generate more than 1/3 of its revenues. And if phone companies keep losing those revenues, they say, they'll have to charge consumers more. For telephone users, the big question will be whether a proposed cut in long-distance charges will be enough to offset those expected increases in local charges. Ray Brady, CBS News, New York.
When my arthritis kicks up, there's no beating deep heating.
Mentholatum Deep Heating Rub. Penetrating relief to soothe minor arthritis pain for hours.
When my hands are stiff and sore, there's no beating deep heating.
Mentholatum Deep Heating Rub. Penetrating relief to ease the stiffness of minor arthritis pain for hours. Mentholatum Deep Heating Rub or Lotion.
There's no beating deep heating.
No, I'm single, really.
Really?
Really.
Hey, Jack, who's your friend, eh? Who's the old choppers, eh?
I've got to do something about those loose spots.
Fix-It helps fix loose spots. Fix-It spreads evenly, filling tiny gaps between dentures and gum with ingredients that give added dimension to holding.
Here comes your friend.
No problem now. And neither are my loose spots.
Hi, Jack. How's the wife, huh? Just kidding. Just kidding.
Today's Fix-It helps fix loose spots.
For two of the nation's big cities, ringing in the new year meant swearing in new mayors. W. Wilson Goode today became the first black mayor in Philadelphia's 301-year history.
Discharge delivered by office.
With fidelity.
With fidelity.
Mr. Mayor.
And after taking the oath, he made a promise to try to deliver on his first four priorities: jobs, 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 and jobs. While Philadelphia swore in a black sharecropper's son as mayor, Boston today swore in the white working-class son of a dock worker, Raymond Flynn, promising a trickle-up form of government that will give neighborhoods a say in setting Boston city policy. Bank robbing, as we have reported from time to time, has reached epidemic proportions in this country. Two members of a robbery gang Steve Young has been investigating are on the FBI's list of 10 most wanted criminals. Given how and when they started, they originally might have been trying to become Robin Hoods. Instead, police say they clearly have become just hoods.
Lawmen say the search for the fugitives is perhaps the most intensive ever conducted in the Northeast. They are looking for a family of political radicals left over from the 70s who have turned, authorities say, to robbing banks. The Chittenden Bank in South Burlington, Vermont was the first to be hit April 2nd, 1982.
What I heard first were shouts of people coming through the office door to everybody get down on the floor and nobody will get hurt.
The bandits wore bulletproof vests and brandished high firepower 9mm pistols.
You knew that they meant business, that they were very harsh. They were not physical with anybody. It was their manner, tone, and their voice.
The gang escaped in 3 minutes flat with a shipment of cash just delivered by armored truck. That pattern was repeated over the next 18 months during bank stick-ups in Utica, New York, Onondaga, Rotterdam, and most recently, DeWitt. Total take nearly $600,000. The FBI thinks the robbers belong to an obscure left-wing group believed to be behind several bombings during the 1970s, including the destruction of an empty Eastern Airlines plane parked on the ground in Boston.
These individuals are definitely cowboys, to say the least. It's a very dangerous, I would classify as a revolutionary type organization.
The primary suspects are Raymond Levasseur, 37, has the word liberation tattooed on his left arm. Thomas Manning, 37, frequently changes his appearance. Richard Williams, 36, once worked as a coppersmith. And 35-year-old Jan Lehman, the fingertips of his right hand were blown off when he bombed a New Hampshire police station in the early 70s. The FBI believes they have become suburban guerrillas, striking at small branch banks to get money to survive. They seem to travel as an extended family and to use their wives to case the banks. Authorities say several of the fugitives have been involved in ruthless attacks on lawmen, shooting at 2 Massachusetts state troopers, shooting and killing a trooper in New Jersey. The murder victim was veteran New Jersey State Trooper Philip LaMonaco, who was shot 8 times on a highway near the Pennsylvania border. According to an indictment, Williams was the killer, Manning his accomplice. It's a nationwide hunt for a collective of former social revolutionaries. The FBI believes they are now simply antisocial and dangerous. Steve Young, CBS News, Burlington, Vermont.
Dear Stofers, I like lean cuisine because
it's less than 300 calories.
It makes it easy to watch your weight.
It's low in fat.
It's a very good idea to eat light.
But it's the taste that brings us back. It's the taste that brings us back.
It's the taste.
It's the taste that brings us back. Love.
Diane.
Martha.
Jackie.
Lean cuisine entrees from Stouffer's. It's not just the calories that count, it's the taste.
Everybody needs a friend, a neighbor to turn to.
Yes, ask for
Person to person is what it's all about. We're friends you can turn to. We bring it all home to you. Good friends, good neighbors, good news. Channel 5.
The more than 7,000 Americans caught in the middle of the surprise overthrow of democratic government in Nigeria are reported to be unharmed. The army general who threw out the popularly elected government, General Muhammad Buhari, says corrupt Nigerian officials will be jailed without, he says, the nonsense of any trial. Saying widespread corruption had to be stopped, Buhari took over the oil-wealthy nation New Year's Eve. Deposed President Shigari is believed to be alive but under arrest. Following several delays ordered by the White House, the Pentagon's own report on last October's Beirut bombing of Marine headquarters was finally released last week. Now it appears the Reagan administration is going out of its way to make copies unavailable to the public. The official apprehension over the report's findings is the subject of tonight's commentary by Bill Moyers.
This may be the most revealing government publication since the release of the Pentagon Papers or the disclosure of the Nixon tapes. You can see why the president tried to play it down and why the White House hopes the country soon will forget it. In a parliamentary system, so powerful an indictment of political policy and military performance might have caused the government to fall. Step by step, the report documents the making of a morass. Its inescapable conclusion is that the death of the Marines was unnecessary, that despite the fanaticism of terrorists, the conditions of tragedy were created by the failure of leadership, intelligence, command, and plain common sense. First, in the words of the report, the Marines were not trained, organized, staffed, or supported to deal effectively with terrorism, nor is the Pentagon prepared to deal with it yet. This, in an administration that has had 3 years and big budgets to carry out its declaration that combating terrorists would be one of its most urgent priorities. Second, the president's decision to turn the Marines from peacekeepers into partisans in a civil war caused them to be perceived as anti-Muslim in a country whose majority population is Muslim. Third, this transformation of the American role actually accelerated Lebanon's steady slide back toward anarchy. Fourth, as diplomacy faltered, the U.S. turned to military options. Conditions worsened for the Marines, but they were given no guidance from Washington for coping with their new circumstance. And fifth, contrary to Mr. Reagan's current optimism, the report says that the continued partisan role of the Marines makes political reconciliation in Lebanon all the more difficult. It could even spur new terrorism against them. The report is sparing of neither military commanders nor civilian policymakers, and that makes its revelations all the more credible. It was written by professional military officers. Implicitly, their report challenges the use of force as a remedy for bad policy. That's something to consider given the present colossal buildup of American power. Something else to consider is why the eloquence and argument of senior officers must be saved for postmortems. They reportedly had doubts about sending the Marines to Beirut and were ignored.
I want you to meet something for your arthritis pain and your aspirin-sensitive stomach. Maximum Strength Ecotrin, safety-coated aspirin. Its orange safety coating works so well. Millions of you can take even Maximum Strength aspirin without all aspirin stomach upset. It's not the aspirin substitute, it's aspirin for minor pain relief. Safety-coated to protect your stomach. Now, if your doctor says aspirin, take it. But make it Maximum Strength Ecotrin. It's safety-coated, it's orange.
Guess who's handling all my investments? My bank. Because they pay me a return that's just great. So does my investment firm. I know that every dollar I have in the bank today will still be growing tomorrow.
Well, when the market's going up, I do just fine.
What's really terrific is there's nothing iffy about my investments. They're all federally insured. Rock solid safe.
Oh, sorry.
See the professionals about risk-free investments at America's banks for security with no ifs.
Why do you insist on Preparation H?
The fact that Preparation H is recommended by doctors makes me feel secure with the product. If in fact they would recommend it, I never will use another product but Preparation H.
Doctor-recommended Preparation H often gives temporary relief from pain and itch flare-ups, even helps shrink swelling of inflamed hemorrhoidal tissues.
The pain, the itching, and the swelling all went away. The fact that it is recommended by doctors does make a difference.
Preparation H relieves pain and itch, even helps shrink swelling.
Remember Brigadoon? It was the prize-winning Broadway musical of 1947. Brigadoon concerned a Scottish village that vanished in the Highland mists, but returned just as it was for one day every 100 years. Of course, the idea of a village that disappeared only to return is strictly a show business fantasy. But what about the community Wyatt Andrews reports from?
It is a wasteland now,
a cold, bizarre landscape of mud and barren trees. The place where Percy Matherly was born.
Well, it's pretty sad to me to look over it from the way that was when I was a boy. It was a pretty prosperous little town then.
All of this once was Butler, Tennessee, a town sacrificed in 1948 when the Tennessee Valley Authority, in the name of flood control, bought the town, built a dam downstream, and turned this whole valley into a lake 40 feet deep. The dam needed repairs. The lake was drained. With the lake at its lowest point, hundreds of former residents have spontaneously returned. More than reunion, this was a pilgrimage.
It's an outpouring of this emotion, which really has been bottled up for 35 years.
I know that I'll never see it in my lifetime again, and I can't look at it enough.
They came as amateur archaeologists, claiming bricks, marveling at the preserved homesteads, settling emotional scores with the land.
Someone asked me the other day what I was doing back over here, and I said, looking for my footprints I lost when I was over here.
They also came as professional archaeologists, looking for the ruins of a second, much older civilization.
We're basically looking for the remains of prehistoric Indian sites. We're finding a lot of pottery.
But the souvenirs change in the ruins of a modern American culture. Florence Isaacs found an oil can from her father's gas station.
Daddy's service station was right over where the rock wall is, right over there.
Dee Arney claimed the cornerstones from church. What they all found after 35 years were ruins from a culture too young to have them, a peculiarly American version of Pompeii, Atlantis in East Tennessee. And until the waters claim once again the corner of Main and Spring Streets, they found home. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Old Butler, Tennessee.
And that's the CBS Evening News for this Monday. Dan Rather reporting from New York. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
Now for your arthritis. The aspirin you take once in 8 hours. Bayer timed release aspirin. One dose is 1,300 milligrams strong. Take it in the morning. It's timed released to give you long-lasting relief during the day. Bayer timed release works on minor arthritis pain fast, and it lasts. Take it at bedtime. It lets you sleep through the night. Now for your arthritis pain, the 8-hour aspirin. Bayer timed release aspirin.
We asked minor arthritis pain sufferers why they depend on Bengay. Here's what they said.
The Bengay gives a lot of relief, and it lasts for hours.
Because it brings relief. And that's the most important thing, is relief.
This is my pal. I go to sleep with him every night, kid.
It takes away the pain. The worm takes away the pain.
Until there is a cure found for arthritis, I will keep right on using the Bengay.
For arthritis pain, feel better with Bengay.
Isn't that the new Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes you just got?
I guess so.
It's got $2.5 million in prizes. Why haven't you sent it in?
Those contests are all the same.
That's what we used to think.
Then Publishers Clearinghouse doubled our prize.
Oh, you have to be dumb to enter contests.
That's what I used to think. Now tell me how dumb I am.
You know that new Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes you just got? Why haven't you sent it in? Lots of Clearinghouse winners used to think that, too. Come on, send it in.
I'm Bill Curtis. Tomorrow, the start of the presidential primary races, and in our 8:30 half hour, actor Tom Courtney. Wake up to what's happening on the CBS Morning News.
This is CBS.
Coming up next on Eyewitness News, the big hole where the downtown convention center will be is closer to being filled. We'll have an update on the water situation in Franklin, Tennessee, and we'll have an extra report on how a wintertime car accident should be handled. Those stories and more coming up next on Eyewitness News.
From Television 5, this is Eyewitness News, weather, and sports.